This is Intro to Psychology. I'm Dr. Grace. If some of you were not here, if you weren't, you can pick up a syllabus at the end of class. It'll just be sitting up here on the stage, and afterwards pick it up. And also, some of you still have to turn in the back page to that syllabus. You can also just leave it up on the stage at the end of class. That'll work out perfectly. I'm going to pray for us today. But before I do, we have a lot, I know, that's going on. I've read many of your prayer requests that you have written on the back of this, or on the front of this. Have even prayed for a number of that I've gone through and read, and so that's on there. But as I pray today, are there things right now we can remember to pray for? Let's start with this one. Let's do this. Let's start with things you're thankful for today. Anybody have anything that they want us to remember as we just open today in prayer? Anybody have anything that you are thankful for today? Yeah. That she's registered for classes. That's a great Thanksgiving. Yeah. You got enough sleep. Is that what you said? Oh, good. I hope it was, well, we won't ask how much that is. Wait, I can't see too far back there. Okay. So someone got enough sleep, someone's registered. What else can we remember to thank God for? Yeah?
I was finally able to get a cheeseburger today.
All right, he ate a cheeseburger today. Your what came in? Books came in the mail. Way to go. Way back there, yeah. Oh, you got onto Blackboard. Is that what you said? Yeah. Awesome. Oh, school. There's still some school needs. Is that what you're saying? Or they were successful?
I'm just saying that I'm thankful for the school days for being successful.
Yeah, to do well and to be successful.
For God's loving grace.
And His loving grace. And one more.
Good friends, financial situation for coming here with us all.
Awesome. Yeah, financial situation. God is a big God, and He's an amazing God who cares. He cares about all these things. We learned this morning, what does He care about? Well, every aspect of who we are, right? God's with us. His design of this place and His design of us. So let's pray. Father, we give you this room and we give you this semester, we give this time that we're together. Father, because we know that you are here and present among us. And so for this classroom, on this day, for this semester, may you be here and dwell among us and be here as we study and look at what it means for you to have made all things and to have become flesh and to live among us. And what does that mean for us in this field to study the human brain and human behavior? And what does it mean to study the mind? When we get an opportunity to do that, Lord, we're catching a glimpse of who you are. Thank you for all of these blessings, whether it's financial, relationship, even other things that we're just knowing that you're there with us. Thank you for this. We lift up these thanks and praises to you. Thank you for being here. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. As I'm going to take this off in just a second, and many of you all are starting to see now, if you brought your clickers, how this will work. This is, again, for just to begin the process of seeing clickers, how they work. We're going to use them a little bit later today, and sometimes they'll just turn off on you, and if so, just turn them right back on, and we'll go over them a little bit. Right now, however, we are going to spend a little bit of time looking at an introduction to this topic of psychology. And so my suggestion is this: you do not need to bring books to class. It's okay. You can follow along. But I'm not going to lecture out of the book. That big textbook is very important. Every page of every assigned reading is critical. So you read it, and I'm trying to assign things a little bit ahead of time so that you can keep up with this. But my lectures will parallel it, but not be exact. So again, you don't have to bring it. The other thing is you do want to take notes and you want to make sure you follow along. And I do add lots of things beyond what's up here. My suggestion is go ahead and write those down. Sometimes I tell stories and they go to the material and just make a note of those kinds of things as well. And finally, feel free to raise your hand at any time. If something doesn't make sense, if you can't hear, if it gets distracting or too noisy, raise your hand and we'll try and take care of that as well. Does that sound good? All right, this is going to be fun. We get a chance to spend some time talking about what it means to be called children of God, what it means to be human. And so today, my plan is to spend a little bit of time looking at the story of where psychology has come from. We will do a true-false, and that's what you're going to use your clickers for. And if you don't have a clicker, you'll just raise your hand and vote that way. We'll probably end by looking at not only a definition, but some key themes. And then at the very end, you should have looked a little bit at your syllabus, gotten an idea of some things in there, so you might have some questions, and we'll save those toward the very end. Does that sound good? Anybody have any outstanding questions we could do right quick before? Anything not make sense or anything you have as we get started? No? All right. Your first week going well? It's a good place, good school. It's a great message today. We're going to talk about what does it mean in the book of John when the intent of the story was, as we learned this morning, the prologue. What does it mean to be made? Or what does it mean that God made everything? Or basically that God gave us this? Well, certainly He designed us. And so the story of psychology is the story of us. And that's what's most powerful. By the way, we will look at Jesus' life in here because there are some powerful things that help us see and recognize if God was fully human and He came down into this world and lived in, and Jesus then had this fully God, fully man capacity, what does it mean that He used a brain to communicate? What does it mean that He had emotions? Did Jesus have all emotions like we have? If Jesus was fully man, did He experience all the human emotions that we experience? Well, guess what? We're going to learn that there might be a couple that while He walked on this earth, that He might not have fully experienced in the way that we experience them. Now, by the time He hung on the cross and took all sin upon Him, He experienced everything we've experienced, including sin, because sin was now placed upon Him. But this idea of psychology is fascinating, in my opinion, because we get to now explore something, and that is God made something. He made us this way. And so as the story begins with humans, it begins with why we are the way we are. Here's a little baby. In fact, it's my baby. Yeah, she's a little bit older now, like 5 years older than this picture, maybe 6, maybe 7, I don't know, but she's older. I know how old she is now. She's 7, so she was 1. So she's like 6 years older than this. But here's the question. What's going on in the brain of this child, even in this picture? Well, how do we know? How do we know what's going on in the brain of this child? Well, it's very important. She's obviously looking at something that she's attached to. That little animal called a whoopee is something that she really, really, really liked. But she also really, really liked me. And she really, really liked her mom. Who does she like better? I ask her that all the time. Who loves you better? And she'll look at me like, are you really asking me that? I said, yeah. Who do you think loves you, me or mom? And of course her mom is standing right there. And she says, I love you both. Like, that's a good answer. But why does she love me and her mom more than she loves you? She's never met you. Many of you she's met, but she doesn't love you as much as she loves me. Where does that come from? If you were to try and take her out of my hands at around this age, she would tentatively go to you. She would probably go like this. She'd go, okay. But all of a sudden now, there's something unique and different about her connection to me. Why does it happen? Why do humans get connected to another human? By the way, we're going to show a videotape of monkeys that we did not let grow up with their mom and their dad. I know, it's really bad. You see, when they didn't get a chance to grow up with their mom and their dad, guess who they grew up with? A wire monkey that gave them all of the food that they needed. It provided all of their comfort this way. And then there was a second monkey that they were raised by, and it was a monkey that didn't give them any food whatsoever, no nutrition, but it gave them one other thing that was so powerful. It was more powerful than the food, because people used to think, why does this little baby get attached to me or to its mom? It's because I provide what? I give it what it needs. It cries, I'm hungry. I put food in, and it goes, I like you. And so that baby becomes attached to parents because we believe, we provide them all the things that they need, and that's why they attach to us. And that's only partially right, because the answer was this baby was attached, and ultimately we found out human babies are the same. This monkey baby became attached to a different kind of monkey beyond the monkey that provided just the nourishment. What did that monkey look like? What did it have? What were its qualities? Anybody know the study by a guy named Harry Harlow? Sure you do. What did that other monkey provide that's the most powerful, or one of the most powerful bonds? What does it provide? Love. It provides love, and the answer, it did it through touch. This monkey had simply this. It was surrounded by terry cloth, something that was very soft like fur. So how do I know that a baby monkey is more attached to the fur terry cloth mother than the one that provides the nutrition? Because I have it on film. What do I have on film? I have on film that when we scare this monkey, which we do, all in science, and the monkeys are treated for the most part very well. This monkey is scared. He hears a noise, sees a flash of light, and that monkey runs to that one thing that it most likes, and it's what? It's the mother that doesn't provide the nutrition. It's the mother that provides warmth and contact, touch. And touch is now huge. You see, we learn these things about humans, and the story of psychology is that gives us a sense now about why you have attached to a parent. Touch is huge. It's powerful. We're going to talk about a story about ultimately another guy who decided to study infant brains to figure out about language, and I'll show you that. By the way, I will show you the Harry Harlow studies in this videotape of this little monkey. You'll see it in about, 4 weeks. But this little baby also does something very weird if you were to take her out of my arms. At around this age, by the way, there's one other weird thing that they tend to do, and it starts even earlier, around 3 months, which is probably about how old she is there. She does something very weird if she was to look at you. If you were to walk up to my little baby, I told you on Wednesday, was it Wednesday? I told you on Wednesday there's one thing that we tend to do when people smile at us. What do? We tend to smile back. This baby has already figured that out with a little bit of a twist. You don't want to know what that twist is? You see, if you look at me and I smile, you do something that's probably common to you, and that is, it's a pretty normal smile that we give to people. When we're happy and we like to see somebody, we smile. And we go, hi, good to see you. But there's a different kind of smile that we give to people that we're not necessarily happy to see. And we have learned something socially as early as 4 months, and that is to do what? We smile, and babies like her smile at strangers. If you were to come up to a baby at this age, she might go like this and kind of go like that. And guess what she's giving you? A fake smile. That's amazing. Here's a kid who's only like 4.5, 5 months of age, and she gives strangers fake smiles. How would I know that? Do we say, that didn't look real, or is that a real smile? Because she'll just go, But this baby, and most every other baby, when you look at them, have all of a sudden figured out when mommy and daddy show up in the room, guess what? They have a true smile. And we know because we can hook her up to these little electrodes, and we could watch these certain muscles that contract in her face, and all of a sudden as they measure this, it goes, whoop, real smile. And then a stranger comes in and they go, and it's a social smile, a fake smile, that says, I don't know who you are, but I'm supposed to smile right now. That is amazing. It's amazing that we figured that out. And that's the story of psychology. You see, it starts with this. Why do we do things like that? Why have we learned to do fake smiles? Why? How do we know? How do we pick them out? How do we know that this baby does? And that's what's so cool about this. It's the exploration of why humans do what they do, because somehow or another, God found this very important for us to make connections socially with people. And what eases that are things like smiles. But it doesn't tell us anything beyond that moment in time when that baby sits and smiles at a stranger versus at a parent. What good is that piece of data? You see, it's a little tiny piece of data in an extremely complex field with an extremely complex subject, and that's you, and that's me. Because the single, I believe, greatest riddle still in front of us is not what we're going to find in deep space. It's not what we're going to find under the ocean. Those are all cool things. The study of those kinds of mysteries are cool, but I think the biggest mystery that is still in front of us is what in the world is going on in the brain of that kid. Because there's nothing so challenging as figuring this out. There are still things we have absolutely no idea about. We can now peer inside the womb. I'll have a picture of her when she was still in her mommy's stomach, and I'll show you that she's doing things in there that are really weird. Like one of the weird things she's doing, when you sleep, your eyes move all over the place at a certain time. Anybody know what that's called? It's called REM sleep. Your eyes do this amazing thing, and we know it's related to dreams. Here's the weird thing, ready? When your brain is asleep and it hits a certain stage called REM sleep, your eyeballs move. That's what REM stands for, rapid eye movement. And your eyes go like this. And we wake you up and we say, hey, what were you doing? And they say, oh, I was dreaming. Why did you wake me up? But babies in the womb are dreaming. What would they be dreaming about? They're having REM sleep. What is it like? There's no light down there, by the way. It's not like the mom goes, there's like nothing. They can't see. Their eyes are, but they sit there and about what? What would a baby dream? Like what mom ate? They don't even know that. So this is an amazing thing. And by the way, this class has oftentimes more mysteries and more amazing things than it does answers, but we'll try and provide both. So I think ultimately the most challenging thing is this topic, and that is the human brain. When God came down and said in that word, He became flesh, you can just stop right there and say that is an amazing thing. God became flesh because He became human. He became a brain. He became a mind. He became thoughts. He became emotions. And we get the chance to explore that and study it. And I'm telling you, there's a lot out there that we still don't know. And it's a fun topic to go through. Would you like to try some things to see how good you know human behavior? All right. You know some things already? Let's try some more. Take out your clickers. And if you don't have your clickers, that's fine, because ultimately what you will do is just simply answer these true, false, just like you would. You can just do it to yourself. And the way you do this is pretty easy, of course, and you'll figure it out in just a minute. And the answer is you. Just simply mark, I believe it's A is true and B is false. So that should be easy, or 1 or 2 or whatever it is. You'll see it on there. Probably even a T and an F on there, isn't there? Is there a TF on there? Okay, I believe 1 then will be true, or A is true, and the next one is false. So here we go. First question. To be useful, laboratory experiments in psychology, and that is we do a lot of experiments in a lab, must recreate the behaviors of everyday life. To be useful, we should bring people in and do exactly the same kind of thing in everyday life as we're going in the laboratory to study it. A, if you believe it's true, you push A. B, if it's false. And by the way, up here at the bottom, you will see the grid, and I'll just go ahead and show you so you can see your answers. So if you happen to be number, I don't know, whatever, you'll eventually see it show up that blue means you've answered it, red means you've changed your mind, and no, green means Yeah, blue means you're done. Green means you're just playing. All right, got it? So as soon as I get a number, A is true, B is false. And by the way, if you don't have a clicker, great. You'll just simply answer the question. And the answer to this one is, to be useful, only 29 of you out of 100 got it right. Wow. See, that's part of my job in here. Psychology does not rely only on lab experiments. We do lots of things out in the field, but lab experiments we're going to talk about. By the way, each of these questions come out of the chapters, and so what we're going to do is real quickly take a peek at each chapter very fast in a true-false. This one happens to come out of the prologue and the science early on in chapter 1, and the answer is laboratory experiments can be very helpful even if they're not realistic. One of that we did is somewhat realistic that I was involved in early on in different ways, and that is this question was kind of I recreated something laboratory, and I wanted to, here's why I got started in psychology. I wanted to find out why people helped other people. Who was helpful? Why did somebody oftentimes give their life to somebody or for somebody else? That was a fascinating question. There was an airplane crash when I was young, and this airplane took off. It was a winter day, took off from Washington Airport. The Potomac River was iced over, and this airplane crashed into the Potomac River. What made it unique, horrible, but unique, was that somebody was filming. What they filmed was this airplane now going under the river. And people started coming out of the airplane in a frozen river. And there was a guy that was filming this, and helicopters, news helicopters saw this, and they rushed over to the scene, and there was people coming up, but it was very cold and they couldn't swim. And I remember all of us just being captivated by these images. And I remember still to this day seeing the three guys on the side of the river, seeing this happening, and people trying to swim and make it to the shore, and it was so cold. And they just stood there, and what would you do? Most of us they didn't know what to do because they knew they couldn't, it was very cold and icy and they couldn't last very long. And I remember the one guy, he just stood there. He just took off his coat, took his shoes off, jumped in the river and went and started helping people. But there was the other guy when these helicopter came over and it would drop like a rope. It didn't have like anything that they could grab onto, and so they were trying to tie it on there. And a few people, it had like a little thing on the end, and a few people got up, and they was able to take a few of the survivors over to the shore. And every time it came back over, there was this bald guy, no hair. And he would be sitting there, and the helicopter would come over, and it'd come to him, and he'd grab it. And instead of hooking himself up, he'd grab the person next to him and go, here, go. And the person would go over. And then it'd come back, and he'd grab it, and he'd grab the next person, here, go over. And they kept doing that. And the bald guy didn't make it. He drowned. The helicopter came back, and he went under because he was so tired. And I thought, who did that? What was he? Who was he? And there was speculation. They kind of at the end maybe figured out who it might have been given the passenger list. But it fascinated me. Why were there three people standing there and one guy jumped in to help? Why did this guy give up everything just to help somebody else? What about helping? And so we tried to create and do an experiment, and that's what I started. I go, who helps in emergency surprise situations? And I'm a social psychologist, and so part of my master's degree was that. There were studies that were done. I didn't originate this one, but this was one of my studies was based on. We would bring people into a room and try and say, we can't make people put them in harmful situations, and we can't recreate that, but what if we did something else? So we would bring a person in, and we'd sit them in a room like this. And they'd be by themselves, and we'd say, all right, take this survey, this questionnaire for us. It's going to take you 30 minutes, and they'd sit there and they'd fill out this survey and this questionnaire. And then something weird would happen. Smoke would start to pour in from these vents up here. Not in this room, in another room. At another place, at another time. We won't do an experiment like that here. Smoke starts pouring into the room. What would you do if you were just sitting there? What did 99% of the people that were sitting there that were told, wait here, take this survey, it'll take you 30 minutes, I'll be out there. You do the work, and all of a sudden smoke comes pouring in the room. What would you think 99% of the people did? They went like this, they went, oh. Hello? Hello? And they'd get up and they'd walk out. Yeah, there's smoke coming in. We didn't have to do the study much longer because that's how people responded. They like to live. Huh? What did we do? One change. So the people sitting in that room in the exact same situation almost never got out of their chair. We changed the situation in that room so that the people would go like this, work, look up at the smoke, and about 80% of them, 75 to be exact, never got out of that chair. They like to live just as much as anybody else. We changed the environment slightly in this experiment, and they never got up. What did we do? What did we make? What happened? It's not super glue. Wait, well, go ahead, yeah.
Did you have someone say it's okay?
Do we have someone say it's okay? Indirectly, maybe?
Did you put like a time limit on the test that they were taking?
We told them they had to stay and finish this and leave the room. That was part of it, but it didn't vary from the other situation.
Add value to the reason to finish? Like
We told them there has to be a reason to finish, but that wasn't any different. Those are good thoughts. Yeah. Ultimately, what we did is we put 2 other people in the room. Just 2 more. And they sat here and here, and I, as this person who's just doing this, sat here. Didn't matter where they sat, but we put 2 other people in the room. But they knew what was coming. They knew that smoke was coming in because they were part of the experiment, and here's what they were told to do. Look at the smoke coming in just like that person does, but don't leave. Stay. And so the other person would go like this, the smoke would be coming in, and they'd look at the smoke, and then where would they look? They'd look at the other 2. Why did they look at the other 2 people? Because they're going, what should I do? And the other 2 people would go like this, and keep working. And so now this person's looking at these other 2 people going, and they're going, whatever, and they keep working. And the person goes, and they just keep working. Wow. By the way, anybody happen to know what that's called? Besides maybe ill-advised. Well, the explanation about why it occurs is one explanation is something called a diffusion of responsibility, where a person goes, I'm not responsible, they're not, wait up, nobody cares. I mean, that ultimately explains it. By the way, it's called a bystander effect. Okay. What it means is this, and ultimately it means that when bystanders are present in time of need, people tend not to get as much involved. Because they think maybe somebody else will do this. But they get their information and they go, well, she's not moving. He's not doing anything. Maybe there's really not an emergency. Maybe I'm overreacting. And it becomes less likely for an individual person to get up and go do something and help in the presence of other people who don't act. Do you think that's important? That's one of the most important findings we have, because now we realize, why do people not help when somebody's in need and that guy's beating her up? Why do people walk past it and go, are they callous or cold? Who helps? What stops them from helping? Sometimes they don't feel responsible. Sometimes they feel embarrassed. I don't want to. Maybe they're just friends. Sadly, these are the things that occur that we begin to study, and so we can set up certain experiments that are not, all of this on this one, that are not necessarily recreating everyday life, but they have some aspect to it, and it's way cool. So let's try another one from the next chapter. Ready? The human brain produces its own, true or false, the human brain produces its own natural opiates that ease pain and elevate mood. True or false? Somebody without a clicker. How many believe this is true? How many believe this is false? The human brain, anybody happen to know, if it is true, what's the name of this particular opiate? It's related to, you ever heard of morphine? Yeah. Your brain produces internal morphine. We call it endorphins. internal morphine, endorphins. And that's why when your doctor provides or prescribes for you a derivative or a type of painkiller like morphine, it stops the pain because your brain goes like this. Oh, I know what that is. I make that when I want pain to stop. And now it goes in, ooh, that's great. Activate these areas that stop pain. And it's called you guys keep answering, and now you're going to change your answers. Let's see how many. Oh, 14 of you stayed the course. Way to go. Either that or you couldn't figure out how to change your, cried, what do I do? Good for you. Okay, not so easy. Newborns can only see, oh, by the way, light or dark shades. You can answer this one as you read it because it's a simple one. Newborns can only see light or dark shades, true or false. But related to the brain, by the way, we will spend in less than 2 weeks from now, we will be delving into the brain, which is amazing because we're going to look at things like morphine, we'll look at things like drugs, their effect on us, and how the brain is what God created us with that provides an amazing challenge and mystery that we don't know much about, but you will get to know a lot about the brain in here because that's psychology. And so the answer to this one, newborns can only see not light and dark shades. The answer is, half and half. Half of you got it right. Half of you did not. And by the way, you can see here you can answer anonymously, and people, they don't know what you put up here. In this one, the reason we know newborns see better and more beyond light and dark shades is, will be left up to chapter 3, which I'll cover in developmental. We now can peer into the brains of children by using about 4 major cues that they give off, which tell us things like what they prefer, what they're bored with, what they have never seen before, and that which they really like. 4 behavioral cues that infants give off that we can go, ooh, it gives that cue when it has preferences or pleasure. It gives that clue when it's bored. It gives that behavioral cue when it is no longer interested in something, and it gives that one when it says what it really likes. So these are all things you will learn and we'll talk about in developmental. By the way, if you have questions, simply interrupt and ask, no problem, or if that doesn't make sense, we know, and I'll give you some of those cues real quick. Well, not real quick, but ultimately when we get to chapter on developmental. Questions? Anything on any of these? Advertisers, true or false, are able to shape our buying habits through subliminal messages. How many have ever seen a subliminal message? It's kind of a trick question. But it's okay if you answered, it's fine. I mean, there are ways to show how many, some of you, by the way, the answer is? Ooh. Most of you have gotten this one wrong. Again, this is the benefit and the value of this class. 21 of you got it right. Advertisers, do they use subliminal messages? Oh, by the way, I will show you subliminal messages in this class. We will talk about messages that people use and have used and continue to use, and then I will give you as to not only an explanation about it, but then we'll talk about why the answer to this one is false. True or false? It's against the law to use subliminal messages in advertising. True or false? It's against the law to use subliminal messages in advertising. I'll tell you the answer. In this country is different than every other country, but the answer to this, in this country, the answer is it is not illegal. You can use subliminal advertising. The reason why? Because our scientists and the people who study this have determined, and I'll show you in this class, I'll flash subliminal messages in this class to you to see who gets them. How's that? And the answer is, yeah, she'll get it. She said, most of the time, well, not most of the time, in almost every circumstance except for a very few, the reason you can advertise it is because it simply doesn't work. It doesn't work, and therefore it's not illegal. In Russia, it's illegal. They think it works. That's, just so you know. That's just the way it is. Psychological research clearly indicates that some people do have ESP. True or false? ESP stands for, not powers, extra sensory Perception. Anybody heard of ESP? Okay, I'll send you the answer right now. All right. Let's see who got it right. There's some X's up there. The answer, do psychological research indicate? The answer is a slight majority got this one right. I mean, a slight minority got this one right. Majority got it wrong. We will have a demonstration in this class of ESP that is exceedingly powerful. It will be fun, but you already know what the answer is going to be. Psychological research has yet to find anybody that shows ESP, but I'm going to show you what ESP at least claims, show you examples of what people claim to be ESP, but now you know the answer as to whether or not it really is ESP. Does that make sense? You'll see it in here, and I'm telling you, I've had people, I don't tell you, it's somewhat a magic trick, and I have people come in and say, wow, that was amazing. Can you tell me how you did it? And I say, no, because I don't want to ruin it. And so you should know that ahead of time. It really is cool. And I'm not going to be able to tell you the answers to why it happens. And then I say, but if you graduate and you go through it, after you graduate, you come ask me and I'll tell you the answer. And I've had people all the time, hey, I'm graduating this year. Can you please tell me the answer that I've been living with for 4 years? How'd you do that? And I think, man, you got to get a life, dude. But I don't say that out loud. I just say, okay, I'll tell you. And I've told them. Okay. Some people dream every night. Others seldom dream. True or false? By the way, every one of these questions is coming out of a future chapter, and the answer does exist in the textbook. All of these. The answer that everyone... How many believe you dream every night? Let me see the people who think you dream every night. Oh. All right. How many are not sure if you dream every night? How many don't ever remember your dreams? How many would like a real quick, simple way to remember your dreams every night? I have the way you can do that. But I'll tell you when it comes to this chapter. I can't tell you everything now. It would seriously overwhelm you. We wouldn't have, most of you got this right. The answer is most people do dream every night. I will forget, so remind me, you told us you would tell us how to remember our dreams. It's very simple. Well, so mostly simple, but I'll tell you when that time comes. So remind me. That's in the chapter on consciousness. The greater the reward promised for performing an activity, the more one will come to enjoy an activity. The greater the reward promised for performing some activity. Suppose you love to play a musical instrument and someone says, I'm now going to pay you for that. Will you come to enjoy that even more? The answer, here it is. Oh, this one's false. How many are doing pretty well on this thing? How many are like not so-so? How many are like not doing very well? Well, maybe we should have you click in it, but ready? This one is related to human motivation and what motivates people and why they do things that they do. We'll save that one for another explanation when that chapter comes up. In fact, all of these we'll save minus a few comments here. The amount of information, true or false, that can be stored in human memory, the amount of information that can be stored in human memory appears to be unlimited. True or false? We're going to spend some time talking about memory in here and what shapes or sets some things for us, why we hold on to some things. Anybody have a memory that's so clear that you can describe everything about it and it was years ago, where you were, what you were doing, how it happened? How many of you have some kind of traumatic moment or major event that occurred and you're like seeing it clearly? How many could just meet somebody's name and like 10 seconds later forget their name? Yeah, that's painful. By the way, why is it that you can meet somebody and 10 seconds later not forget and forget their name? Anybody want to know? Anybody have an explanation to know why? There's something called short-term working memory, and then there's a long-term memory. Yeah, way back there.
You have nothing associated with their name?
Yeah, there's some things. Tell me your name. Shane. It's hard to associate things maybe with a person's name that prevents us from, we go, hey, nice to meet you, and then all of a sudden we're thinking about what? Well, we're thinking about things about him or that person that begin to interfere with something called processing. And things that we don't actively try and put into long-term memory oftentimes just disappear. Sometimes this lecture and classes don't last very long. And I will give you the secret as to how to keep a lecture pertinent and real so that it lasts a long time. Would that be cool? Yes. And by the way, it comes down to one key word. The difference between students who ultimately do well and those who remember things are those who have this one word and they figured it out. Because see, right now you're sitting here and you're thinking about lots of different things. How many, even at this moment, have something else that you've been thinking about while I've been lecturing? Raise your hand if there's something else. You see, that's messed up. Who's thinking about what they had for lunch? Anybody was thinking? Nobody? Who you ate lunch with? Anybody would think? Give me some things you were thinking about because you all raised your hand. Well, I've been lecturing today.
I want to eat lunch.
She wants to eat lunch. You have a road trip coming up.
My dad coming.
Your dad's coming tonight. You have to go to the bathroom. If you have to go, please. Seriously, I don't mind you getting up, people, and going. All right? It's not a problem. And you can pretend like you're going to get a drink of water. You want to see your clicker on the thing, and so you're thinking of that. You're hungry, and
I stayed up reading all last night.
you stayed up reading, and so now you're, yeah. Killer whales. Yeah. You see, I tell you, this is the problem. Ready? I can't compete. By the way, what's his name? Shane. Shane. You knew that was coming. How many remembered Shane? How many have never met him in your whole life? You just said, I'm going to remember this day because he said I'd forget it. The reason you think about other things in here is not necessarily a bad thing. It's called our ability to have our attention go to do different places. It's not bad. Good students have figured something out, though. They have figured out to go, oh, I can think about being tired. I can think about what I want to have for lunch or should have had for lunch, or even think about killer whales. Provided I do not lose that primary thing that I've been assigned to do, and that is for you as students, this is what you've been assigned to do, yes? How many of you are so good at dividing your attention that you could read a textbook and think about something else at the same time? Well, guess what? You can't. Here's the thing. Can you think about something else while you read your textbook? The answer is yes, you do it all the time. But here's the answer to the riddle that's related to human memory that you're going to learn in here, and it's this. The reason I don't remember Shane's name oftentimes, and the reason I forget, and the reason this lecture might ultimately just become one of those things that I don't remember anything that happened. I've had students come up to me 15 years after this class. I remember one thing, your son flipping me off. That's all they remember. Were you in my class? What did you teach? Psychology. Yeah, okay. The answer and the reason is because your minds, when it comes to memory and that which we hold on, truly is one track. That is, I can read and think about other things, but what we're going to learn about memory is ultimately, I can only process some things at a time. And so, your brain grabs the one thing that you're thinking about most, that's most important, and that which, if you're doing that, that which you're reading just simply disappears. How many of you have ever taken a shower? Well, the answer is yes, most of you. But how many have ever taken a shower and you're sitting there and you're getting ready to get out and you go like this? I don't remember if I washed my hair. How many has that ever happened to? What is wrong with you people? It's killer whales. That's the problem. You think about them. You should be thinking about your hair and this lecture, and you go like this. Your brain goes like this. If that's ever happened to you, you're thinking probably about something else, and you're going and rolling, and you go, I don't remember. Did I shampoo? How many of y'all just go, crud, I'll just do it again? Because they're like, you can't come back. Or, by the way, the reason is, it's not because you're bad or slow or deficient. It's simply because you've been paying attention to something up here, and a train of thought goes like this. This is what grabs you. This is what you're doing. What you're doing ultimately, we'll talk about this, fades away. It is why the answer to the last one, which was subliminal messages, didn't work. And this one, more of you got it right than wrong. The answer, human memory can store an amazing amount, and the answer to this one, it appears to be unlimited. Because think about the opposite. What if people got to be like 70 and they're old and they've had a lot of things put in, and all of a sudden they go, oh, I can't add anything more. I'm like done. I'm sorry. I've just reached full, and it's done. That would be freaky. It'd be like, I don't know what to do. Do I like purge? What do I get rid of? How do I do it? It appears to be unlimited. People just keep going and going and going. Yes, killer whale guy. Yeah, it illustrates something that's exceedingly amazing. Our brains are very complex. We don't ever seem to fill them up. Now, does that mean you forget things? Yeah. Well, why? And I'll tell you why after I don't remember right now, but when we get there. True or false, if you are truly innocent of a crime, by the way, this will come up in our physiology chapter, but also come up in the topic of emotions, because that's what this is. If you're truly innocent of a crime, you have nothing to fear from taking a lie detector test. True or false? The answer is, I'll wait till we get to about 200 of y'all, so we can just, come on, yeah. Oh. Why did you have something to fear? The answer to this one is false. If you are truly innocent of a crime, you do have something to fear from taking a lie detector test. What is it?
Fear.
It's interesting. The answer is you should be afraid of being afraid. Because see, if you're afraid, at that moment when you're taking a lie, what does a lie detector test detect? Well, it makes you think that it detects lies. It doesn't detect lies. Lie detector tests don't detect lies. If so, that would be way too cool. I would buy one. It'd be like, oh, you lost your homework. You loved my lecture. You see, it doesn't detect lies. What does it detect? It detects, it detects sweat on your hands. It detects heart rate increases. It detects your pulse. But more importantly, those things are indications of stress. Basically, it's called physiological arousal. And see, the reason is if someone sits you down and say, dude, where were you on the night of September 14th at 7 p.m.? You're like, I don't know. I don't even remember if I shampooed my hair. And you say, so you admit you don't remember? You're like, no, I don't admit nothing. What are you talking about? Well, this in itself can be exceedingly powerful for us as a physiological arousing moment. And so lie detector tests detect something that we call emotional arousal. And emotional arousal is a sign that you are dealing with things that may or may not cause you to have arousal, such as if they recall you've committed the crime and they bring it up and they ask, where were you on the night of September 14th at this time? You're like, yeah, I was hurting that guy. I was stealing, I was doing whatever, then your arousal is likely to go up and the machine will go like this, like that. But it goes up at lots of other times too. You can find out these things. I was hooked up to one in a class like this when I was a student. And the person came up and hooked me up and he said, all right, let's see. It was galvanic skin response. Your hands tend to sweat a little bit when you get a little bit anxious and nervous. And so he hooked me up to this and he said, all right, Chris, I'm looking up your grade right here. Looks like you're failing. And by the way, this machine would go like that. And he says, you're failing. And the machine went like this, because I knew I wasn't. Like, so it didn't affect me at all. And he goes, let's try something else. And he said something else. And he goes, okay. He goes, let's try this. And he pointed to a girl. And he says, go up there and kiss him right now. And the machine went, woo. I was like, oh, man. Blasted. That was exceedingly embarrassing. It was like, oh, man, stop it. Okay, because I found that moment, for some reason, a little bit odd or uncomfortable or whatever, and that's what it happens. And so, lie detector tests don't detect lies, they detect emotional arousal, and there are thieves who have figured this out, and they have figured, I will teach you how to beat a lie detector. Would you like that? Yes. Okay, you see, this class has a practical side to it that you can use. I'm going to teach you how to beat a lie detector test, not today. Unless you need it, call me. But between now and then, you'll have plenty of time. I believe most of you will not find yourself needing that until, well, maybe never. But if you do, remind me, and that's in about 7 weeks, 8 weeks when we get to emotions. All right? The most common form of schizophrenia is the split personality in which the person possesses 2 or more separate identities, true or false. We will talk about schizophrenia in here. In fact, we'll talk about all of the psychological disorders, whether they're mood disorders, which are huge, whether they're anxiety disorders, which also affect a lot of people, or schizophrenia, which surprisingly does strike a lot, unlike the disorder of multiple personalities, which does not strike a lot of people. Schizophrenia is not the same thing as multiple personalities. They are exceedingly different. Multiple personalities are so rare, most psychologists have probably never even seen a person with that diagnosis. Schizophrenia, on the other hand, strikes about how many people out of 100? Depression, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 out of 100 people at some point in their life could be struck with anxiety, around 20 out of 100 with depression, and schizophrenia about 1 out of 100. Exceedingly common, unfortunately. We'll spend some time talking about it toward the very end of the semester when we get to disorders. We'll talk about therapy, true or false. Without professional help, most people who suffer disorders inevitably get worse. Without professional help, we will spend time in here talking about what that means to have psychological therapy, what variations are there, how good are they at helping people, and what happens when people don't, which, by the way, happens to be a good percentage of people suffering from these things never do get help. And the answer is, this is false. People with some psychological disorders, somehow or another, there's not all the time, but there are times in which there is a change in them, and they do get better, and they don't necessarily, or they stay the same, and they don't inevitably get worse. But we'll talk about exceptions and likelihood of these things occurring. And then lastly, in fact, this will be the last day of the class, we'll talk about number 12. Individuals will not administer severe shocks to another person merely because they are told to. If I said to somebody, I want you to go over there and shock this person who's hooked up to a shock machine, every time they get the answer wrong, will this person that I tell them to shock, will they shock that person just because I told them to? Here, by the way, the answer is false. They will not merely because they are told to, and the answer is, the reason this has a very powerful difference in it is that they will actually administer shock at surprising levels in a wide variety of situations, and it is one of the most, it used to be one of the most disturbing findings. I was going to say shocking, one of the most disturbing findings that we have, but I'm going to show you the actual videotape of this occurring in a study that changed a lot about how we view people and how we view authority figures telling somebody, go hurt that person. We used to think that people would go, no, I'm not going to hurt them. But when an authority does, some weird things occur. Anybody happen to know the researcher involved in these studies? Initially, that did the shock studies. A guy by the name of Stanley Milgram. You'll know all about this study as it goes along. All right, that's your clickers. That's true, false. We are able to, hopefully you'll be able to get those clickers registered. Keep working at them. You can see a good 300 of you have already done this. And we will use these throughout the semester. Back to the notes. Real quickly, any questions from one of the true, false, or anything else that was said that doesn't make sense or you have a question about? Anything at all? Question, real quick, as we move on.
Why are such a high number of dreams forgotten?
Dreams, he asked, why are so many dreams forgotten? How many of you all know you've dreamt, but you just don't remember it and it's gone? And sometimes, how about like if you, how many of you all, you know you dreamt, you want to try and remember it, but you kind of got distracted in the morning and then it's gone like 5 minutes later or whatever? Yeah. I'll give you the answer to why when it comes to that, but I'll give you the short answer. The short answer is the exact same reason why I might not remember Shane's name. It's the exact same reason, because dreams are not that which your brain is focusing in on for memory, and that which you don't rehearse gets lost, and dreams play that role. That's it. We don't rehearse things, we don't think about things, or our attention is distracted elsewhere and they disappear, and that's where dreams fall in. Great question. Anything else right quick? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to learn a little bit about Alzheimer's disease, primarily what happens in the brain of an Alzheimer's patient, because when the brain, because we all have these neurotransmitters that occur that help us think, move, do this, and when that happens, there's this sequence that we can watch of what your brain does, and for people with Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's or schizophrenia, there's something that's missing. It's one of these neurotransmitters, and so we'll talk a little bit about it. Yeah. Anything else you want to know about? Yeah?
Is it true that dreams like tell you stuff about your subconscious? Can you dream about this?
Yeah, no, she asked the question, is it true that dreams sometimes follow from the things we've either been thinking about or that we're dealing with, processing it subconsciously? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Well, how many have ever dreamt about something that you've been worried about all that day or that night and it comes out in a dream? The answer is we do that a lot. It's not all dreams, but to explain dreams, you have to include that as one possibility, that we're just working out things throughout the day. Yeah, sure.
What did you think of Inception?
Oh, yeah. We'll save movies because I think there is a lot there. And here's the first bad thing. I haven't seen it yet. I know, it's bad. I'm admitting it. I'll go. How many have seen Inception? And how many want to know and talk about it when it does? When we okay, we will, because I know a little bit about the plot, but I just haven't seen the movie yet. Okay, I know I got you talking now about Inception. The idea behind certain disorders, by the way, when it comes to like weird mood disorders or thought disorders, there are differences. So I will give you the difference between a mood, for example, disorder and a disorder of thinking, which is schizophrenia. And so there are differences. And they primarily deal with, one deals a little bit more with mood issues, emotions, than the other one does, which is usually a thinking problem.
Can you change your dream while you're dreaming?
How many can change your dream while you're dreaming? There are, okay. How many can purposely on a regular basis do it whenever you want? And there's about, which is pretty close in here, there's about 1 to 3% of people can actually do that. I'll tell you what it is and why people who do it are really weird. Not really. Anybody know the first psychological experiment that was ever completed? It was not the movie Inception. When was it? The first psychological experiment. Well, I'll tell you what, instead of trying to answer it, here's what happened. The first one that's recorded. Now, many might have occurred, but see, people have always asked this question. Why us? Why humans? Why can I think? Why can I put myself into the future? What is it about us? Why do we behave this way? Why do we think this way? Why do I feel this way? And humans have been asking these questions from the beginning. But the first time it was ever written down that somebody did something about it was a guy who did this. 700 years before the birth of Christ, there was a king of Egypt, and he thought this. He thought to himself, what is the oldest race on earth? And he thought the answer is Egyptian. The Egyptians have been here longer than any other race. This is it. That's me. It's our race. We're the oldest. We've been around the longest, and this was the king, King Psamtik the first, 700 years before the birth of Christ. And he had this written down, and he decided, I will prove that the Egyptians were the oldest race on earth. Anybody know what he did? He wanted to prove it, and the way he did it was he thought that people, when they would speak a language, spoke the language that people spoke to them. Pretty good. You see, we speak the language that people talk to us, and we're prone, therefore, and primed, even better, to hear then that language later on, and so we begin to speak the language that is spoken to us. He discerned it, but then he thought, here's the thing. First psychological experiment. What if a kid couldn't ever hear somebody speaking a language? What if nobody spoke to a kid? What language? And he thought, the answer is whatever is the most inborn, primordial language that exists will come out. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? It was a good idea. So guess what he did? He kidnapped 2 children as the king. He took the 2 kids. He said, all right, sorry, I'm taking these kids. I'm going to put them out in the middle of nowhere with this herder, sheep herder. And the sheep herder was told one thing. Do not ever speak to these 2 children. Give them all the food, water, whatever they need. Don't speak to them, because I believe what will happen is this inborn language, if they're not spoken to, will come out, and then it'll tell us it's Egyptian. That was the first study. He wrote it down. And they recorded this, whoever his scribes were, and they described what happened next. These 2 kids got to be about the age of 2, and they ran up to the sheep herder one day after never being spoken to, and they started to yell out a word. Sheep herder comes in and walks up to them, and they yell out a word. And the word was bekos, bekos, bekos. And they kept repeating it. He goes, that's the word. I've never heard that word. I got to take it back to the king. Took it back to the king, and they brought it in. The king goes, I've never heard that word. What is that word? And they brought in some of his advisors, and they went, that's the word for bread in the Phrygian language. The oldest race is Phrygians, not us. That was his conclusion to the first psychological experiment. That these kids spoke the word bread in a language, and that he determined was the oldest race on earth. Cool study. First time. Now, could we do that today? The answer is languages are fascinating. How many of you all speak more than one language and you're fluent in more than one? Your brain, how many are fluent in maybe 2 or 3 languages? By the way, if you're fluent in 2 languages, your brain is different than people who have a single language. Your brain is different in many ways, and you will more likely gain a 3rd language before another person is to gain a 2nd, much easier. Why? Well, we learned some things about language, that your brain is primed and queued up to hear certain things, and it is exceedingly cool when we find out how this happens. So, I'll save that, talk a little bit about language, but here's what I want to point out. Human behavior from A to Z, whether it's arachnophobia. Anybody have arachnophobia? Fear of spiders. We'll talk about every human behavior all the way, we'll talk about where phobias come from, all the way from, you name it. We talked about helping behaviors, and we talked about kids, and we talked about language. We've in here talked about why we forget things and memory and emotions and arousal. All of those are part of the topic for this class, and that's where we're going to go to, looking at human behavior from A to Z. In order to do that, let's start with the first thing. Psychology is the study, as I've been telling you before. it's really, the word comes from the word psyche, which is, now what's psyche stand for? What's the Greek for what? Word psyche.
Soul.
Yeah, it's primarily the soul. And so the psyche is the soul, and the word of psychology then comes from the word about, or to talk about, or to look at, or to examine the soul. So psychology is the study of that thing that we call the soul. And so as we study human behavior from A to Z, psychology says, oh, all right, it's all things related to that which we used to call the soul. By the way, most psychologists don't refer to it now as like the study of the soul. It's easier to call it the study of the mind, or the study of behavior, or to, we don't say, ooh, it's to talk about the soul. It's really now replaced with a different definition, one that's a little less likely to refer to things like a soul that we can't see, which makes some scientists a little bit uneasy. It doesn't make Christians uneasy because we deal in language like the soul, it exists, it includes things like our emotions and our will. But psychologists like to stick with, all right, it's the study then of things like what we think about, our thoughts, and how we behave. Words definition comes from the study or to talk about the soul, all right? The more formal definition that you'll find in your textbook about what psychology really is, it's the scientific study of the mind and behavior. So it's the scientific study of that which we call our mind and behavior. And so in the course of this class, what will end up happening is it will cover what falls into this category for human thinking, even animal thinking and behavior. It's literally everything. Psychology studies humans, this challenging, huge mystery, this complex being, this being that somehow has been created when the God of the universe spoke and brought all things together and says all things are under His control, and made us with all things that He ultimately is responsible for, and made humans. Now, it would have been easy if the answer and if the story stopped there. But the problem is we study humans and we study, therefore, what God made, but what's the one variable that has snuck in there that has really messed things up? Yeah, we are, as humans, have sinned. We're, what C.S. Lewis says, we're bent. How many have heard that phrase, that we're bent ones? Anybody know where that comes from in C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy? Where for the first time somebody in his mind arrives from the planet Earth to a place where there is no sin, and they look at these humans that came from Earth, and they look at them and they go, oh, you're bent. And they would say, what are you talking about? I'm standing straight. No, you're bent. Your will, your soul, something's wrong with it. What happened in the dark planet? Sin. So when we study human beings, it'd be so easy to go, we're studying God's image. I can look at this person, explore things about their brain. But then the complicating fact is we've got things in our lives that have actually altered what we're like. And to determine and look at the impact of sin is another thing we'll have to do. When does that come into play? Why does that occur? The study of the mind, therefore, and behavior is ultimately the final definition. Anybody still need that? The study of the mind and behavior. We'll talk about where that comes from. And then what we're going to do is begin to look at another very critical link, and that is these themes that will show up over and over again. The first one that you'll find again and again is that psychology is what we call scientifically based. That is, it uses an empirical approach as a discipline. It's aligned itself with a science approach, or a scientific or empirically based approach. We go out as psychologists, therefore, and study the world using this approach, which help us explain and understand information. And so that which is data for psychology to use is the data that has been used or found that's empirical. So when I went and studied people, why did they help when smoke came in the room? Well, I had to do it in a scientific way. I couldn't just say, I think people help. I think he jumped in because he was a nice guy. I think that bald guy, he might have helped other people because, well, there's just some people that are more helpful, and maybe he was from a small town. And people from small towns, by the way, do help more. But you see, that would be one thing to kind of think about. But psychology says if you're going to add anything to the answer why people help, you better do an experiment that's empirically based that helps you understand things like helping. So I did. I brought people into a room. I didn't bring smoke in the room. I did something else. I had people actually have an emergency situation that caused them to somebody would get up and have to leave and they'd knock all their stuff over. And we wanted to find out, would people get up and help somebody, a stranger? They would do other things, like they'd walk into a room that there'd be a person on a ladder that would be outside the room, and they'd be sitting there, and all of a sudden they'd hear this big crash. And they'd go, and you hear somebody yelling, "Ah," like that, and we'd find out who would get up and go help that person. But you see, we had to study that over and over. You know how long it took me to do a study on helping behavior? Almost 3 years to collect data, to finish a master's and a dissertation, about 3.5 years of planning and working and bringing in study after study after study to just try and answer the simple question, what happens, what variables influence a person getting up to help or not? In this small little thing, and that's what it means to be scientifically, empirically based. And then another key theme that we're ultimately going to look at is this semester, besides the fact that knowledge is acquired through observation and documentation, which is what we call an empirical approach, knowledge is acquired through observation and documentation. The other key theme, and there's more, but that one that you'll find is that behavior is multi-determined. And what that means is, for me to explain helping behavior means there are so many variables that influence helping that it's not just one simple thing. It's not because from their small town necessarily alone. It's not because they're more empathic. It's not because their parents taught them to be helpful. It's not necessarily because they were just born that way. It's not because they happen to notice the situation. And it's not because they happen to be alone or with other people. There are so many variables that go into play that psychology has now learned that almost all behaviors are what we call multi-determined. Lots of things, lots of complexity. We will study this and the rest of chapter 1 on Wednesday. Any last questions? All right, time's up. See, register your clickers, turn in anything. If you need a syllabus, come on up, and we'll see you Wednesday.
We hope you enjoyed this message. Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Learn more at biola.edu.